So some of the events that you guys are suggesting, Killminks, interesting, FTO, and Feet. Those are the main ones I'm hearing a lot. And then people were saying maybe remove Fire Blind and Clock, which also makes sense. Add Void Cube, interesting. Remove Fire Blind. Those are the things I'm hearing. So here are my thoughts. And this is gonna get a bit controversial. But I don't care. So first off, I think the events that need to go are events that are repetitive or really don't belong in WCA. So what are those events? First off, Clock. Now why is Clock still an event? Because people practice it, obviously, so like it makes sense that it's still an event. But I think the Clock does not really fit into the WCA. I think the WCA's future is into spectator sports, or more into spectator sports. You see like stuff like World Championships, you see big comps. Spectator sports are where things get better, and you can see like esports and other like activities like that. How to get big and how to get money and sponsors is by having it a spectator sport, and that's how Red Bull came into speedcubing, because the Red Bull competitions are very spectator friendly, right? It's a 1v1 competition. It's very fun to watch. A lot of WCA competitions not fun to watch, unfortunately. And one reason because of that is Clock. This is Clock, okay? This is Clock. If you're 10 feet away, you can't see what's going on in the clock. If I'm turning it, even if I'm fake turning it, you can't tell. If I put it down, you can't tell if it's solved. So I can literally just do random moves on the clock, slam it down at 2 seconds and say it got a WR. And the spectators will be like, wow, world record. But like I can literally do no moves on the clock at all. Like, this is not a spectator-friendly event, in my opinion. And I think it doesn't really fit the Twisty Puzzle thing. Like, Twisty Puzzles, they have colors, they turn like that. Clock doesn't quite fit there. And I think there's many reasons to remove Clock as well. It's bad for organizers. Anyone that's organized the comp of Clock, or staff at a comp of Clock, or delegated, I don't know, whatever, knows that's kind of a pain. There's literally cube covers that are used purposely just for Clock, okay? People are designing 3D printing cube covers just for one event. And if that's true, like, it's kind of stupid. And you guys know all the like reasons behind it. Like, if the clock falls over, it's a DNF, stuff like that. Or it's a rescramble, and then rescrambles are really annoying. Scrambles take forever. Clock, I feel like, just doesn't fit, and it's quite annoying. So even though I think the event's decent, like it's pretty intuitive and stuff, I think it's worth removing. My point is that, like, for Clock, there's so many things that can happen. It's not spectator friendly. It's not like organizationally friendly. Like every comp I've been to, the one event that screws it up is Clock. It always screws up the schedule. It makes it like go 2 hours late, and it gets caught up in like some other good events. Just to be honest, agree? That's good to see. Alright. Now let's talk about some more controversial stuff. Big cubes and big blind. I think they shouldn't be events at all either. Now, let me explain why. First off, let's talk about big cubes. Oops, I did not do the correct CSP here. Big cubes are, first off, they're repetitive, okay? So, you got 5x5, that's a big cube. You saw the centers, then the edges, then 3x3. 6x6, same exact thing. 7x7, same exact thing. They're literally all the same exact method. Let's look at take a look at like 5 blind, right? 5 blind, you solve piece by piece. 4 blind, same thing. 3 blind, same thing. Like, the WCA, I think, has a commitment to diversity, and they've mentioned that, I think, in the past, that they don't want to add the Kilominx because it's very similar to Megaminx, right? Well, if that's true, why are such repetitive events like 7x7, 6x6, and big blind like a thing? I think it makes a good enough sense. Like, a lot of those events are super repetitive. And this is proven by the, look at the rankings. 7x7, 6x6, 5x5. Who's number 1? Felix. No, Max, sorry. Who's number 2? I think it's Felix. Or is it Kevin? I don't know. But the rankings for the top 3 are pretty much all the same. And that's not diverse enough for cubing, I don't think. And look at like 4 blind and 5 blind. Top 1, Stanley. Top 2, or number 2, is it Kai Jun Lin? The rankings are exact same, and like it's not really diverse, and I don't think those events should be staying. Now, what events should be removed from those lists? I'm thinking 6 and 7, they should go, and 5 blind should go. For 4 blind and 5x5, they should maybe stay, but we can maybe consider removing them as well because they're also quite repetitive. And I know there's arguments to say that they're not repetitive, but to be honest, compared to other events, they are quite repetitive. And you can even talk about spectator sports. No one's gonna watch a full 5 blind solve. They're not exciting. No one's gonna watch a full 7x7, 6x6 solve. Those are not exciting at all. So big cube finals are not even exciting because it's literally max dominating everyone. So spectator sport, organizationally, like big cubes always screw up the schedule as well. So that's another bad thing about big cubes. So I think big cubes and 5 blind in my ideal WCA gotta go. 5 blind, half the solve again, maybe not half, but a lot of it's just doing nothing and no one's gonna watch that. 3 blind, right? They're doing nothing for like 6 seconds for a memo. That's not too bad. But if they're sitting there for 1 minute doing nothing, it's not a spectator sport, unfortunately. Like the whole reason for 5 blind and like 6 and 7, I think, they were added because I think there was hype back then about big cubes. That's it. I think they really don't serve a purpose in the WCA really, other than that. And it, like, if you talk about like all rounding and stuff, it's way too easy just to get good at one big cube and just get good at every other big cube. Like, the rankings are all the same, like, it's not good, I don't think, for diversity. So yeah, I don't like that. People talk about adding 8x8, 9x9, and 6 blind. I guarantee you, no one's gonna like that. No one's gonna add, like bigger cubes and bigger blinds. Because the current big cubes and big blinds are already as unpopular as they are. So yeah, those should be removed. That's my opinion. Okay, let's talk about cube 2x2 superior smaller events. Why they shouldn't be removed in my opinion. Are they very luck based? Yes. Is that good? Not really. I think it's worth adding because they're very short events, and because they're short, they're gonna bring in a lot of beginners. Beginners, first events they do are always gonna be the smaller events, and it's always super fun for them. So if you have like all longer events, beginners are not gonna get into cubing. So that's why I think they should stay. Next, smaller events are very nice for competitors, spectator sports. Like, they're very exciting to watch, they're very short, and they're very close, which is super cool. Like, you watch 2x2 finals, they're always like very close, cube finals very close, and they're exciting to watch. So I think for that reason, they shouldn't be removed. There's no reason to remove them. They're good spectator sports, they're easy to scramble, they go through comps very quickly. Like, you can get a whole round of 2x2 done in 30 minutes easily. Even with a lot of competitors, like, it's not bad. Multi-blind is impressive, not spectator friendly. I think it still has a place in the WCA. I think it could be spectator friendly towards the end. Multi-blind is unique in the fashion that it's a build-up thing. Like, if 5 blind, if you mess up one center, you're DNF'd automatically. That's kind of lame. In multi-blind, you mess up one cube, you're fine. You can keep adding up and stacking your points, and even if you mess up a cube, you can still get a good score. That's why I think it's unique, and I think it's worth keeping. Alright. I think that's all I want to remove. Big cubes, big blind, and clock. That's all I want to remove. I'm not sure if there's anything else I want to remove. I think every other event makes sense. I think square one makes sense. I think a lot of stuff makes sense. So, for that reason, I like my list. Before we get into like adding events, I want to first talk about the fact that if you remove an event, you kind of make a whole community around that event kind of angry and mad, which I totally understand. Like, if my main event was square one, which it is right now, and it gets removed, I'll be pretty upset as well because it comes out of nowhere, and I've been practicing the event for several years. I think like 6 years now I've been doing square one, and for it to get removed, it's kind of disrespectful. And the same I can say for stuff like feet when it was removed, even though I think it makes sense. So here's my idea. I say we don't remove events at all. I think removing events is not good because it's gonna make people who do those events not happy. So what's the solution? I think all the events I said we remove, we keep them, but we move it down to tier 2 events. And I would say the same for feet. I would say bring back feet, make it a tier 2 event. What does a tier 2 event mean? It could be different for different people. In my opinion, this is what I would like to see. I would like tier 2 events to be not necessary at World Championships or Nats. For example, you don't have to hold 7x7 in like a big comp. Like, you don't have to have a champion for it. That way it doesn't have to put pressure on those competitions. And also make them maybe less popular in local comps. Maybe you can't hold 2 tier 2 events. Maybe that's a bit extreme, but like something like that to discourage tier 2 events maybe at local comps, right? So make it so that people who practice that event can still compete in it, but make it so that it's less popular because they're not good events. So that's a kind of like a middle to people who like an event that kind of is bad, and the fact that that event's bad. It's kind of like a compromise, and I think it's a very good one. I think people who did feet are going to be much happier with it being a tier 2 event than being removed. So for that reason, don't remove events ever, make them tier 2. And for Magic can maybe come back, but I don't think it should. Magic is kind of bad, so I think Magic should stay kind of gone. But if it does come back, it comes back as tier 2. That's my opinion. Now, let's talk about things to add. Chat. Spam chat with things you want to add to the WCA again. Now, what I heard about before was FTO. I hear that a lot. Kilominks, mirror blocks, relays, cup stacking. No. Master Pira, yes, interesting. Mirror blocks, void cube. Alright, let's talk about LBO. Sure, I'll do LBO here. Let's talk about first the ones I disagree with. Void cube is the same as Duet 3. A void cube is a collector's item. It's not an event. No one speed solves void cube really. The mechs are kind of weird. It's the same thing as a Duet 3. For that reason, I don't want void cube to be an event. I think it's too repetitive, and as I mentioned before, repetitive stuff is not that great for cubing, I don't think. Cuboids. I think there's too many cuboids. I think if you start adding some cuboids that makes sense as tier 2 events, that'll be cool. But there's so many cuboids, and you can't really pick which ones they are. I think cuboids would fit really nicely in the WCA, but there's too many of them, and it's hard to decide which ones to add. So I think maybe tier 2 events would be good for cuboids. Mini Guildford, that's too long, no way. Like, no way they're gonna scramble a bunch of events just for one event. That's too hard to run in comps, so no. That's something for fun. It's not something I think should be an official event. Sale challenge? That's not really an event. That's something more for fun, so I don't think that should be added. It's not really competitive. At Magic, I already mentioned Magic is... Well, let's talk about it quickly now. Magic, like, it was an event before, and it was removed. But it's an event you can't improve on. It's literally, you just like, you do it once, it's the same position every single time. It's pretty much worse than Clock. And it was only added because it has the name Rubik's in it, so I don't think it's worth adding. Or re-adding, at least. Remove FMC? I think FMC is unique. I think it's a place to stay. I don't think it should be removed. It's unique enough, and it's not a spectator sport, obviously, but it's not hard to handle in comps. I think it's fun, and it's a different side of cubing. I think it's cool. It's unique. Rainbow Cube, maybe. Did Rainbow Cube used to be an event? I don't quite remember. Score on FMC? I don't think FMC for other events should exist. Duet 3 is the original, so 3 blind is good. Duet 3 OH is good, and 3x3 FMC is good. If you start applying that to other events like 2 blind, I don't think it's worth doing. 2x2 OH, people suggest that. I don't think it's worth adding. Those are too repetitive. Like, stuff for Duet 3 makes sense because this is the original. This is the original cube, so doing this OH is fun and stuff like that. But like Square 1, you shouldn't be adding like FFC, OH, stuff like that to that. Same reason why I would say Pure Blind, probably not, because it's another variation of an event for something that's not Duet 3, so I don't think it's worth adding. Note that Duet 3, again, it's a weird variation that I don't think it's worth adding. I know Red Bull does it, but I think inspection is what make events what they are, so I don't think it should be added. Kill Minx, let's talk about Kill Minx. Kill-Minx is a variation of Megaminx, which makes me think that it shouldn't be added. However, Kill-Minx is very unique in that 2x2 is a short event. Megaminx is a long event. Kill-Minx is an in-between, which is a very, very nice combination. And it's at a time point where it's very nice to watch, I feel like. It's a good spectator sport. For that reason, I think Kill-Minx should be at least a tier 2 event. And I think it's very fun to watch, very fun to do. New cubers would love it because it's literally easier Megaminx. Megaminx is known to be kind of longer event. I know people in chat like Megaminx. That's cool. But it's a bit longer for people who are a bit slower. Kill-Minx is perfect for newer cubers who don't want to do that long Megaminx, but want to do something a bit easier, you know? So I think Kill-Minx, that's a good event to add, at least for tier 2. Now mirror blocks, I think this shouldn't be added. Reason being because it's the same as 3x3. So same reason for Void Cube, mirror block shouldn't be added. And like same for Fisher Cube and stuff like that. Alright, FTO for WCA, I see this way too much. Let's talk about it. I never owned an FTO, so it's kind of hard for me to give it a good opinion. But I think it fits in the WCA. It fits in the collection of twisty puzzles. And it doesn't take too long. It's not too long, not too short. I think it's a good fit. And I think it'll be fun to watch as well. So for that reason, at least a tier 2 event would be for FTO at least. And I think for tier 2 events should be tried out as tier 2 events, always. So if the WCA wants to add a new event, my suggestion is that they always make it a tier 2 event. And after the testing phase, if they see it's pretty good, like the event is doing well, then they can make it a tier 1 event. I think that's what they should do. Yeah, I think FTO test it as a tier 2 event. If it's actually that popular, it could be tier 1. We'll obviously see in the future, but I think FTO will be not a bad event. There are some problems with it. I think it's not as intuitive as other events from what I've heard. And maybe it's not as fast as I would want it to be, but I think it's good enough to add. Or to test out at least as tier 2. Ready Cube. I think it's very intuitive. I think new cubers would like it. Maybe a bit too intuitive for me. I think Ready Cubes feels like clock. It's too intuitive. It's too easy. But I think it'll be fun to add. But I don't think there's not enough depth for Ready Cube. It was literally popularized by Moyu, by one company, and it was made by Oscar Van Deventer, not as like a puzzle to speed solve. So I don't think it really deserves in speed solving categories. I don't think there's enough depth to Ready Cube. I really don't. So I think we can test this as a tier 2 event in the future, but I don't think it looks good for Ready Cube. I don't think it's worth adding, unfortunately. Ivy Cube, it's way too easy. So yeah, I think just because cubes exist doesn't mean it should be an event. It should be looked closely and examined to see if it fits a time frame of a good event and in like enough depth. And I think Ivy Cube is way too easy. Bigger's Cube and Master Pyraminx and Bigger's Cubes. For those, I think they're possible, but again, they're variations of cubes. I think Master Pyraminx can make sense. That's a good one because Pyraminx is too easy. Something a bit harder than Pyraminx would be nice. Same for Cube, I guess, but I'm not quite sure about that. Those could work for sure. It's kind of like Kill-Minx. I think Kill-Minx would be a good event to add. Maybe Master Pyraminx, maybe Master's Cube if that exists. Event where you assemble, disassemble, 3x3 and time it. That's fun to do for fun, but I don't think that's an event. That's not like something people would want to watch. I mean, maybe it is for fun, but not like as a competitive event. Like, that's not solving a cube at the point. Like, any non-cuber can do that. And I think Twisty Puzzle should stay like something that's hard, at least to non-cubers. Relays and Team Blind. This is what I'm advocating for. This is my main one. The WCA, I think, is missing team events. You look at esports, it's all team events pretty much. You look at cup stacking, there's literally relays, there's left hand, right hand. Very popular events. The WCA has 0 team events. And let's look at Nations Cup, stuff like that. very, very, very popular at Nats and at Worlds. What does that mean? I think team events are very popular, but are somehow still not in the WCA. Therefore, I think they should be added to the WCA as tier 1 events. Why? Because I think there's so much community aspect to cubing, and I think the fact that team events don't exist don't allow for too many opportunities for that community. I think stuff like team blind and stuff like relays would strengthen the community even more. Competing together as a team, like you can look at Nations Cup. It shows teamwork. It shows effort with a lot of people. It's a completely new aspect for cubing. People have been doing it forever unofficially. I think it deserves to be officially added as a tier 1 event for sure. Like, no doubt in my mind, I think it deserves to be added. Team blind, relays for team events. I think those are so good. Team events are hard to regulate. You look at Nations Cup, just 3 people do a cube solve, that's it. Very simple. And I think like relays and team blind should be only 3v3. If you do other events, it's gonna get too complicated. So only 3v3. I think that makes sense. Nations Cup was not hard to regulate, I don't think. So as long as like you just keep it in check, it should be fine to regulate. Team blind could be a bit harder, but it's 2 people. I think it should be doable. You just have to make sure one's blindfolded and one is giving the comms, and that's pretty much it. There's no cheating involved. It should hopefully be pretty easy to do. I think team blind will make people enjoy cubing and enjoy the community aspect of cubing so much more. Like, you have to find someone to do it with. You can practice with someone. It'll be super fun to see how world-class solvers would deal with that. Like, you look at like esports, you look at cup stacking, it's all team stuff, and teams are what bring communities together. Like team sports. Relays and team blind should definitely be in the WCA as tier 1, in my opinion. Those are the things that I think should be added for sure. How do you sign up if you don't have friends? You can make friends at the comp and figure it out. Like a cup stacking competitions. Lauren's not here, but I'm assuming if you don't have a partner for that event, you could find a friend, you guys do it together, and you guys are best friends for life. You know? It encourages like community. I think that's good. And if you already have a friend they can do it with, and you guys are both fast, and you guys want to win competition together, like, you can do that too. Like, I really don't think there's any problems with T-blind and relays. It'll be so fun. Regulation could be kind of a problem, but like, I think it's definitely doable. 2 people, 1 hand. What? You mean like 1 hand from each cuber? That's too hard to regulate because someone just gonna do OH and the other guy's gonna do nothing. What if that happens, right? That's not team building. That's literally just one person doing OH. So that's why people like saying that that's not gonna work out. In my opinion, at least. There is 1 hand for cup stacking, but cup stacking you need 2 hands. Cubing, you can kind of get away with doing 1 OH, and if someone wins the competition with just OH and ignoring their partner, I think that event's just not worth adding. It would be cool to see combinations of it, but like, I think 1 hand from each cuber is too difficult to regulate. Because there's gonna be someone who's just gonna do OH, and that's not fun. So yeah, that's kind of my rant on events I think should be added or removed. So recap, let's not remove anything, but let's make feet tier 2, let's make clock 6, 7, and 5 blind tier 2 at least. Events that should be added as tier 2, maybe Killaminx, Master Pyraminx, maybe stuff like FTO, and some other cool puzzles like that. But definitely add as tier 1 stuff like team blind and relays. That's what the WCA needs. Those are super fun events, I think. It's going to be very popular with cubers, and it'll be pretty competitive, and it'll be awesome spectator sports. Oh, one more thing I want to add. Let's talk quickly about other formats, because I think the WCA needs to include other formats to be competitive with people like Red Bull. Like, I don't need to be competitive with Red Bull, but I think they should in some ways. Why is Red Bull doing kind of well with their cubing thing? Because it's a spectator sport. It's awesome to watch. It's 1v1. It's fun to watch, right? Like cubing comps. Why do people get bored at cubing comps? Because everyone's doing their own solves. Nothing exciting happens. Only when it's finals or people get WRs when it's exciting. So I think the WCA should consider adding more formats. What formats am I looking for? 1v1s are going to be super cool, and 1v1 teams would also be nice. Again, I think it should only be applied to 3x3 because that's the main event. Probably not other events, but maybe. But I think 1v1 formats, best of 5, best of 3. You look at cubing at home. Cubing at home is doing so well because of 1v1 formats. We need more of that in comps. Things that like parents go to comps would be excited to watch. Like you guys, a lot of you guys have your parents bring you to comps, and their parents are bored. Well, just be honest here. Like it's not interesting to watch. People just doing themselves. That's it. Nothing exciting's happening. If it's 1v1, even if it's like 2 15-second solvers, very slow solvers, or like not that fast solvers. If it's a close match, that's something I would even watch. Like I would watch like people that average 15 seconds because it's a 1v1. If it's not 1v1, I would never watch someone that averages 15 seconds because that's so slow. For me at least. So I think that'll be awesome for spectator sports to include other formats such as 1v1s. I think a lot of people would agree with that. More head-to-head formats, 100% agree. Stuff like that, 1v1s are super fun. Keeping at home, Red Bull, that just clearly shows that viewership is out there for that. You can think about the viral clip with Philip and Sebastian Weyer getting a 0.001 difference. You can just remember that. That's something non-cubers would remember. And that's something that would happen more if they happen more often. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Those are my thoughts. Again, we should add tier 2 events, which are less important events that don't need to be held at comps, bigger comps, and don't need to be held at smaller comps too much. Stuff like 6, 7, 5 blind, and clock and feet should be there. And maybe add stuff like Kilominx, Massive Pyraminx, stuff like that, and FTO. Tier 1 events should stay as they are, but add team blind, relays, team events that would bring the community closer together. That's my future for WCA. I also add more formats, add more 1v1s. Those would be fun to watch. Stuff like that I think will make WCA better in the future. That's my opinion. Right now in the WCA, I think it's too little of a spectator sport. People don't really enjoy it too much sometimes. There's not enough like team aspects to it, even though it's all about the community. I think these changes will make the community overall better. I think comps will be much more exciting. I'd watch comps much more. Big comps will be even more exciting. And I think it'll be overall better. Spectator sports is how you get sponsors, how you get more money into it. If you wanted to go like esports with full-time paid signed players / cubers, there gotta be sponsors, there gotta be an audience. And to get an audience, gotta make it a spectator sport. So yeah, those are my opinions. Let me know what you guys think. But yeah, those are it.